Welcome to this Bridgewater Now update. I'm John Luck. Last Tuesday, voters hit the polls across the country, and of course that includes us here in Bridgewater. Races that affect the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives were some of the items residents here in town and across the Bay State decided. Bridgewater votes mirrored most of the state races, with the lone exception being the U.S. Senate. Town voters chose Jeff Deal to go to Washington. However, the Democrat Elizabeth Warren was reelected to her seat in Washington. Charlie Baker won his reelection bid in the state election, and voters locally had the same result. Stephen Lynch, Mark Pacheco, and Angelo D'Amelia were all reelected in uncontested races. There were 3 questions that needed to be voted on. Question 1 was the most expensive and most talked about. This is the question regarding nurse-to-patient ratios and a maximum number of patients being assigned to a nurse in hospitals. The ballot initiative failed on the state level and locally by a tally of 73-47 to 29-71. Question 2 didn't get as much attention as number 1, but it did have a different result. This question would mandate a 15-person commission of Massachusetts residents to write a report on money and politics potentially changing the way elections are financed. The question passed here in Bridgewater by the final tally of 66-75 to 33-77. We've had stories regarding Question 3's impact here in Massachusetts. This question would maintain transgender protections in public places, and that question passed here in town with the slimmest margin of the 3, but still a margin of just over 1,500 votes. And in the state total, about 1.8 million people wanted to keep these protections in place. Veterans Day was this past weekend, and this year it took place on the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. This year it also took place one day after the 242nd birthday of the United States Marines. The annual Tri-Town Parade took place in East Bridgewater, and the ceremony went off without a hitch as residents from Bridgewater, East, and West Bridgewater came out to thank those who have fought and continue to fight for our freedom every day.
Today in the United States, we have 20 million veterans, a little more than 20 million. Veterans who embody the American spirit, veterans who have worked selflessly and tirelessly to preserve our heritage of freedom. We, the 300 million Americans who benefit from our veterans, and our veteran service, should not only be thankful, we should honor all of them by living, mindful of the sacrifices made, reflective in the freedoms we enjoy, and remembering that the 11th day of the 11th month is a day to promote enduring peace and unity for all Americans.
8th grade students at Bridgewater Middle School had an opportunity to talk to over 30 local veterans before the long weekend. This has become a tradition, having veterans from World War II to recent conflicts come in and talk with students in a relaxed atmosphere. Classrooms and hallways were decorated with homemade signs and pictures of some veterans and the students' families. Turning to a quick check of sports, and the BSU football team took home the scoop for the 29th time at the 40th Annual Ocean Spray Cranberry Bowl, beating Mass Maritime 21-7. The game's MVP was Jack Levanchi, who became the university's all-time leading receiver with 122 yards and a pair of touchdowns on the day. Typically, this is the final game of the season for the Bears, but this year is going to be different as Bridgewater State will play Salve Regina in the New England Bowl. Bears Sportsnet will have live coverage starting at 11:50 a.m. on Saturday, and we will have replays of this game in the Cranberry Bowl on BTV and BTVAccess.com. And finally today, with Thanksgiving coming up next week, Black Friday shopping plans are starting to come together, and for some that means using the Wrentham Village outlets. But you may want to set aside even more time for traffic, even if you do wake up at midnight on Black Friday. Wrentham police will be watching the alternate ways that shoppers may get to the plaza. Now, the one and only way to access the outlet lots is by using 495 and exit 15. Wrentham Police Chief Bill McGrath says that commuters should avoid alternate routes given out by GPSs. If you try to access these alternate routes, you will be sent back to the highways by a police roadblock. Thank you for watching this Bridgewater Now update. I'm John Luck.